We are honored this morning to have as our commencement speaker Ms. Valerie Alexander. Valerie graduated from Trinity in 1990 with a bachelor's degree in economics. She went on to earn a Master's of Science in Environmental Economics and a JD from the University of California, Berkeley. Following a career as a corporate securities lawyer, Valerie went on to become a venture capital consultant, an investment banker, an executive at 2 media startups, a screenwriter, and an author. Her books include Happiness as a Second Language, Success as a Second Language, and How Women Can Succeed in the Workplace Despite Having Female Brains. She now speaks to companies, conferences, and organizations on topics related to happiness, success, and success for women. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Valerie Alexander.
It is such an honor to be the first commencement speaker President Anderson has invited to speak for you at Trinity. And I have to go off book a second because I did not realize it was Rich Butler's last commencement. And this man had a greater impact on my life than any other educator. So thank you. By doing this, I've joined a long list of highly accomplished Trinity graduates you've never heard of. I know what your parents are thinking today. All the money we sent to this place and they couldn't get Tina Fey. Or at least Grace Helbig. I'm kidding. I know your parents have no idea who Grace Helbig is. Rest assured, this is not new. When I sat where you are 26 years ago, our speaker, who had graduated from Trinity 30 years earlier, said that he could remember much of what his commencement speaker had said, but could not remember who it was. He found that fact comforting. I distinctly remember him saying that, and yet I cannot remember who he was. When I told friends and colleagues I would be doing this, every one of them had something that they remembered that their commencement speaker had said on their own ceremonies. My favorite was the public defender who told a graduating class of law school that he never had a mute client get convicted. Mark that one. He never had a mute client get convicted. But no one could remember who their commencement speaker was, which is great, because the person doesn't matter. In speeches and in life, it doesn't matter who I am. All that matters is what I leave behind. If you remember anything from today, I hope you'll remember that this day was about happiness and how important that is and how much control you have over it. And excuse me, Dr. Butler affected me. I'm in an online networking group, and a woman recently posted, "I'm at a crossroads and I need help. I have the ideal job in my field. This is what I majored in, and I work for a great company and get paid a lot. Only problem is I hate it. I made a mistake. This business is not for me. There's a graduate program I want to try, but isn't it too late to change paths? Should I just give up on the idea of ever being happy? I'm already 25 years old." 25 is too young to think that you are stuck in a career simply because it's the one you chose when you were 19 and had to pick a major. Most people, 10 years after college, are not doing what they thought they would do on the day they graduated. And if they are, it's in a capacity so different from anything they ever imagined. If right now you don't have a job, or in a year you discover you hate the job you're in, it doesn't matter. Welcome to normal. There are jobs you will love that you simply have not heard of or might not exist yet, that because of your Trinity education, you are fully prepared for. This is not to say that you won't have to pay dues, that there might be some misery and some grind, which is worth it, unless you discover you're working towards something you don't want, and then don't do it. I fell backwards into being a securities lawyer. I wasn't fulfilling some lifelong dream of corporate law. I went to law school by accident because Dr. Butler knew that I wouldn't get into a PhD program in economics if I applied, and so therefore he and Dean Grissom encouraged me to apply to law school. I rejected the job offer I got from the nightmare firm where I'd spent my second year summer, and the only offer I got was from one of the big 3 firms in the Silicon Valley, conveniently at the start of the first internet boom. My first IPO was for an Australian company that was going public on the US market, and I sat in that first meeting hoping and praying that someone in the room might say what the letters IPO stood for. Incidentally, its initial public offering. 5 weeks after that first meeting, the senior associate on the deal quit, the partner was off making rain, and I wound up running the transaction. I closed that transaction in San Francisco and immediately drove down to Palo Alto to file the paperwork on my second IPO, which was E-Trade. Another deal I briefly had to run when the senior associate was out with a kidney stone. My name is on the cover of E-Trade's registration statement, and the day we filed it, I had been practicing law 7 months, and a kind of law I didn't know existed 11 months earlier when I graduated from law school. As a lawyer and as an investment banker, my job was to take internet startups public. And guess what didn't exist 6 years earlier when I graduated from Trinity? Internet startups. Whether you're trained for it or not, never underestimate the value of just showing up. Keep your mind open and your mouth shut and give it your best. In the workplace, confidence and competence are perceived as the same trait. If you are highly competent and you behave with no confidence, you will be perceived as incompetent. And people who are highly confident can go years before anybody figures out the truth. If what you bring to, thank you, the adults in the room understand what that's like. If all you bring to the table is competence, you are already in the top 50%. So show up, plow ahead, do your best. If you don't, run around announcing that you don't know what the letters IPO stand for, they might just put you in charge of one. And it might be awesome. 5 years into my fabulous corporate career, my mom developed a brain tumor the size of a baseball. It was 1/3 of her brain weight. Within a month of the diagnosis, I sold my job, sold my car, sold my house, quit my job, gave away all my furniture, and with 2 suitcases and a dog, moved back to Indiana. That was 16 years ago. And I just spent this past weekend in New Orleans with my mom and my sister for Mother's Day. I left the Silicon Valley in 2000. And in my absence, the whole place fell apart. So in 2001, when it was time to move back to California, there was nothing to go back to from what I had done before. So when I got to the West Coast, instead of turning right to go to the Bay Area, I turned left to Los Angeles to try my hand at making movies. I gave myself 2 years to earn a living at it because I only had 2 years' worth of money left in the bank. And 1 year and 10 months later, I was sitting in Joel Schumacher's living room pitching my take on an adaptation he was going to direct. And that was my first screenwriting job. I had 5 fantastic years as a screenwriter. I worked for big names. I was repped by big agencies. I directed very small projects. I married the smartest, funniest man in the business, one of the few film and TV producers who, with a moral compass that points true north. That's more important than you can ever realize in a life mate. And when Hollywood became more of a grind than a blast, I decided it wasn't for me anymore. So I became an author, a speaker, a publisher. I'm starting a social gaming company to gamify the content, the self-help content that my authors and I have created to further empower people to achieve lasting, permanent change in their lives. None of this was even within my realm of imagination on the day I graduated from Trinity. The only job of those I just listed that I'd even heard of were lawyer and author. I'm sharing this to let you know that if you have some master plan for your life, that's great. But if you don't have one, that's okay too. Or if you have one and you're not following it, you're fine. Or if you follow it and it turns out to kind of suck, that's also good. Do something else. Changing direction is not failure. Changing direction is not failure. When I mentioned the 25-year-old who was afraid she'd never be happy, everybody laughed. And I hope that was out of a sense of how young 25 is, and not out of derision for the idea that someone at 25 in her first job out of school feels she has the right to be happy. I am so over my generation complaining about your generation. And they're so spoiled. They're so entitled. Yes, you're entitled to be happy at work. All of us are. It just took us so long to realize it that we're a little jealous that you have figured it out already. Your generation is saying, I want more from the place where I will spend 1/3 of my life than just a paycheck. I want it to be fulfilling and rewarding, and you're right. Those things make you happier in your job, and companies would save hundreds of billions of dollars by focusing on what would make their workforce happier. That's not an exaggeration. That number is based on more than a decade of research by Gallup, and the actual number is $450 billion per year in the United States alone. In my work as a speaker, I go into companies every day and I meet employees who want to be motivated, want to be engaged, want to love their jobs, and because of the policies of their employers, they become disillusioned. They become unhappy and quit, or worse, they become disengaged and stay. The main cause of this is what I call accidental managers. People who've been put in charge of other people's work without ever being given 1 minute of managerial training. And all of you, at some point in your lives will be managers. Whether you are a surgeon or an artist or an accountant or a stay-at-home dad, you will be in a position where someone answers to you, and you need that person's buy-in, and you need their effort, and you need their loyalty. So it will be your job to motivate them. And what motivates them is what motivates all of us. A sense of accomplishment, a feeling of achievement, not money, not fear, not Pop-Tarts, but rather a belief that our work makes a difference in the world. If you are just good at everything else you do, be great at getting the best from the people around you. That skill will pay off exponentially. There is an enormous disconnect between the same old beliefs and the reality of what makes people happy. But you with your ridiculous demands of respect and fulfillment, will be the ones to refocus the rest of us on what really matters. I was a sophomore at Trinity when the movie Wall Street came out, when Gordon Gekko proudly proclaimed, "Greed is good." It was the message our parents were living and the ones we were learning, and it was garbage. Greed is not good. Greed encourages the hoarding of wealth at the expense of growth. Greed does not create jobs. Greed does not foster innovation. Greed does not increase happiness, and unhappy people cost the rest of us a lot more money. They call in sick. They quit without notice. They bully other people on the job. They're more likely to get injured. They engage in workplace violence. Happy people are more productive, more creative, more trustworthy, more loyal, more innovative. Adam Smith's invisible hand theory said that all of us acting in our own self-interest gets to the best outcome. But that's a lie. John Nash showed that working cooperatively to everyone's benefit yields a greater collective outcome. See, I remembered something. For generations, we have gotten this wrong, but you seem to be getting it right. Don't stop. Don't lose that view just because those who went before you might disparage it. This year, we lost the artist who 45 years ago wrote the words, "And these children that you spit on as they try and change the world, are immune to your consultations. They're quite aware what they're going through. Changes. The world you are inheriting from us is a better place than the one we inherited, and you will make it better for future generations. People don't want to acknowledge that. They look at the era they only fondly remember in a gossamer haze and forget reality. Society in 2016 is better than it was in 1966, and it was better then than it was in 1916, which was a whole hell of a lot better than 1866. So why do we think it won't be incredible in 2066? Almost everything improves with age, not just wine and cheese and smart women, but also countries and communities and college graduates. I wish I could see the world you are going to leave to your grandchildren, because I bet it'll be more open, more accepting, more egalitarian, more abundant, and happier than the one we're giving you. How could it not be with you in charge? Not only is your own happiness within your control, the world's happiness is within your control. Steward it wisely. And 5 or 10 or 40 years from now, I don't care if you remember who I was. But 40 years from now, I hope you'll remember what I said, because I'll be 87 and I probably won't. And if you found these words inspiring or just stress relieving, then take them, embrace them, build on them, and go do what you were born, raised, educated, and are now fully prepared to do. Go be amazing, and never forget that you are a tiger at heart.